My name is Don Howie, and I've been attending the Orchard now for several months, and I'm an administrator at Ole Miss. But back about 7 or 8 years ago, when I was teaching French, I had a wonderful opportunity to get to know a really outstanding young lady. Megan was a student in one of my upper level classes that year, and she was excellent in every way. One of the things that I liked about Megan the most is that even though she was a theater arts major and was a wonderful dancer and an actor, she was also a really gifted person in French. She could read and write it wonderfully, and her accent when she spoke it was almost Parisian. She was an outstanding student, and in my class she was at the top of the class when the grade point average was determined at the end of the semester. She was wonderful, and I really enjoyed knowing her. Well, in the following year, after I taught her in October, Megan decided to go home to visit her family in St. Louis. And sadly, she didn't make it. Somewhere in Arkansas, I don't remember where exactly, Megan was involved in a terrible automobile accident. And her young, promising life, so full of potential, so full of possibilities, came to an end. And I have thought about Megan many times since those days, and I have mourned her passing. She was only 20 years old. There's a poem that I learned a long time ago. It's a haiku poem that has to be one of the most depressing poems I think that I have ever known. And it goes like this: life is like a ship which sets out onto the sea in order to sink. That is a really depressing poem. But perhaps more depressing than the poem is the fact that there are many people in this world around us for whom that is what life is. They see life as a doomed exercise in futility, as something that no matter how well it's going, in the end, it's going to end in death. We are going to live, and we are going to suffer, and we are going to die, and that's the end of the story. And there's nothing in this world more depressing than this. But I want to tell you this morning that I do not believe for a minute in that. Quite to the contrary. Because I believe in a historical event that occurred 2,000 years ago when a young man named Jesus of Nazareth took on death, mano a mano, and he defeated death. He was victorious over it. He beat it, and he rose from the grave. He took on everything, all the evil that exists within this world, all of the suffering that we experience in this life, the very experience of death itself. And he beat it. And by doing so, he opened a way for us to beat death too. Jesus, resurrection, Easter is all about the defeat of death. Death losing to life. You know why I come to the Orchard to worship God with you every Sunday? It is not because I want to experience Matthew Clark butchering the French language, which I'm sorry to say he does have a tendency to do, although I do love Matthew's music. It is not to hear Pat Ward preaching, although Pat's a great preacher. I come to the Orchard to worship God with you because of Easter, because of the great gift that God has given to us on that first Easter morning when he won the victory over death and sin and the grave. When he won a great victory in which he allows us as his children to share. Paul was writing to the Christians in Thessalonica who were struggling with this whole mystery of death. And Paul wrote these words: "We would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, about those who've fallen asleep, about those who've died, that you do not grieve for them as others do who have no hope." We believe that Jesus died and rose again. And so we believe that God will bring with Jesus all of those who have fallen asleep, who have died in him. Easter, the resurrection, Jesus' victory over death. This is my great hope in living. This is my hope for Megan. This is my hope for me. This is my hope for you. Easter means that when all is said and done, when evil has done its worst, God wins. And because God wins, we can win also. Easter is about life. Life prevailing over death. I hope that the joy and the wonderful excitement of Easter can live in my heart and in your heart on this day and on every day.